Hey guys, Casey here at LOTOLift.com, here to answer some quick questions about your control unit, maybe the first time using it, all the way to some of the components inside the unit. So if this is a first time use, we'll do this first. It'll be chapter 1 in the video. We're going to show you how to lower the lift when you come down to use it for the first time to load your boat. So every lift after we install it, we're going to raise it all the way up. This is for QC, and we're going to get some pictures. Our installers, of course, patch those back to us. Oftentimes we'll forward them back to you so you can see the lift finished product when we're all done. So the lift's going to be very high and out of the water. So the first time you lower it, it's going to take some time to go down. Don't let this concern you. We get a lot of calls. My lift's not going down. It takes about 10-15 minutes. On the bigger lifts, it might even take longer. If that entire system is out of the water without down pressure on it, it's going to take a long time to evacuate all that air to get that lift to sink. So come down, real simple. You're just going to open the control unit. We typically put some sunglasses, some koozies in there. You're going to put the handle to down. I went a little too far there. You heard the motor. If you hear the motor running, it's not going to go down. The motor has to be off to go down. So the handle's in the lower position or the down position, and you just wait. This could take 10-15 minutes without a boat on it. It takes about 3 to 5 with the boat on it, and so it's a lot quicker with that down pressure on it. So let the lift go all the way down. You'll know it's all the way down when the chains get tight. And often without a boat, once again, it gets a little bit more momentum, so you can feel it kind of hit the dock. When the boat's on it, it pushes the lift under the surface of the water. There's not near the swing when it comes down, so you don't feel that bump. So look at your chains, make sure they're tight before you take your boat off, especially if it's a back over. You don't want to trash a drive without that lift being all the way down. You're going out, your captain moves the boat off the lift. When you want to raise it, you just want it to breach the surface. It does not need to be as high as it was the first time you used it. You just want it to break plane right there at the surface of the water, breach the water surface, and then put the control unit to hold. What that's going to do is take all the pressure off of the dock when you're out playing on your boat. So there's no downward pressure or chains popping, nothing pulling on the dock. This could be really damaging to a lift and a dock if it's a really rough day. So be careful when you do that. That's the whole point of a remote, which we're going to talk about in a different video. Very complex system. This is just about your manual, your standard manual units here. All right, guys, you have came back from a great day out on the lake. The lift should be down. You need to, whenever you're putting a boat on it, you want the handle in the down position. Just leave it in the down position. Don't worry about putting it on hold. It is a 3-way valve, so it has a bypass. No water can backflow in to the actual control unit or the blower itself. There's an exhaust valve and hose that runs underneath your dock that'll often squirt water out. That keeps the unit dry, keeps you safe and the user safe, and of course makes the electric motor last a lot longer. You won't hear the bearing line in our system. They've done a great job with this design. So just leave the handle down as you bring the boat in. Once again, you're waiting for those chains to get tight. Boat's coming in. You're going to hook your guide ropes up. There should be 2 on the back if it's a pull-on. You're just going to loop those through the cleats, pull it tight, and then once you have those ropes set and everybody's off of the vessel, you're going to put the handle in the up position. This process usually takes 3 to 5 minutes. This can vary depending on the size of the boat and the size of the lift. When the boat reaches all the way to the raised position, we want to go ahead and let that bubble out. That's going to get any of the water out of the tanks. That's going to keep some of the fish from going inside the tank and laying eggs or any sort of marine growth that can clog and cause you problems down the road in your plumbing. So go ahead and let that system bubble out. I recommend 10-15 seconds. Doesn't have to be a whole excessive past that, but you're welcome to go a little longer if you feel more comfortable. You're going to put the handle firmly into hold. So make sure that it bottoms out on hold. That's going to keep anything from leaking. If you go real light and just get it about 90% there, it's gonna leak out on you. It doesn't happen very often with this system. You can actually almost feel it in between the positions. They've done a good job with that valve. So just go ahead and get it to the hold position. Everything's going to be off automatic. You don't have to worry about it. Close your unit. If you have a lock, go ahead and lock it. Real simple. Leave your guide ropes on. They should be positioned high, so when the boat comes up, they actually get slack. If something were to happen to a hose, plumbing, fitting, anything in the tank, your guide ropes will keep that boat secure and safe in the slip in the event of a failure. All right, let's talk about some troubleshooting. So you go to raise your unit, your lift, and nothing happens. This happens frequently due to a GFCI being tripped. So the first thing we ask you to check is your ground fault circuit interrupter. There's going to be a reset and a test button. This power light is currently off right now. So if that power light is off, that means the system is not getting any juice. So you're going to reset by pushing the green button. All right, something you'll notice about our GFCI interrupters, or ground fault circuit interrupters, is it's just a 2-foot cord. So the reason we do this is not because we want to avoid wiring into the cord or anything like that. We're not trying to cut a corner here. These are highly sensitive for safety reasons. So that's good for you and anybody else, but in the event of any sort of electrical current, so if you leave this plugged in and a lightning storm happens, we've seen these fry. They're really sensitive. I wish they weren't, but it's for your protection. It's real easy to test this though, because of the length of the cord. You unplug this, there should be enough cord left in your control unit. So if you need a little slack, try to pull it from the back side of the control unit. If the installer, sometimes what they'll do is zip tie this to a control unit, and you'll need to cut those zip ties, go directly to your outlet, and try again. If that fixes it, it means you need a new ground fault circuit interrupter. These can be purchased through us. Currently they're $60. Like everything else, the price can fluctuate on any of this. So they also sell them on Amazon. But make sure you operate your lift with this, especially if it's a remote, because it's going to protect critical components in that system and or bodily injury. All right, I touched base a little bit on if it was actually wired in. This control unit, this power supply runs all the way to the blower motor itself. So your GFCI, if it fails, basically the whole system will not operate. So that's why we don't like to hardwire these to the blower motor itself, is if this goes out, you're dead in the water, and often these things happen at the most inconvenient times. You guys are using these on the weekends. You're not going to be able to get a hold of anybody to come out and replace this. So that's why we like to run just the 2-foot corded version of that ground fault circuit interrupter, and it does its job safely. But if in the event of a failure, you're still able to raise your boat, protect your boat over the weekend, get this part ordered right here. You're still able to order one of these. Real simple, guys, just a 2-foot ground fault circuit interrupter. You can get them online, or you can purchase them from Firstmate, or you can call us Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., and we can get you one of those too. So looking at a comparable unit, this is the hold position, and this is raised lower. The only difference between raised and lower is whether the switch is on or off. So when we've actually used systems similar to this, and we had a lot of calls saying their lift wouldn't go down because they were running the control unit trying to lower it. It's actually more common than you think the first time. If someone's not used to running a boat lift, it's real easy to think that the motor has to be running to evacuate the air. It does not need to be running, so make sure your switch is off. and the handle is on lower. Downside to this, on this unit, I'll flip it over here, see if you can see, is there's not going to be a bypass valve. So any backflow is actually going to go back through and exhaust through the motor. That slows it down, and also it makes these bearings go out very quick. You can see the rust around this motor. All right, so diving in and taking a deeper look, you're going to notice that there's a knot in this cord. That is there by design so that if you were to pull on the cord, plugging it in, it doesn't actually pull through or pull on their wire nuts or some of the joints, their connection points. So it is a simple and effective way to keep you from putting any tension on the joints themselves or the wire connections. So leave that alone. Don't undo that knot. That is by design. If you look closely at this, you're going to see a lot of pipe dope, and they actually have to do this on this type of system. And I'm gonna pull it apart. I have not taken this apart yet. It's going to be really, really hard. I'm going to show you some of the challenges and some of my struggles or concerns with this type of fitting and joint plumbing fitting. So typically they're going to be a 5/16. Pull it out of the way so you can see what's going on. Okay. Maybe you can see a little bit better there. So to break this, I'm just going to start turning it. Now, if this was connected to a boat lift, I couldn't do this, but because I'm in an office and it's been cut, and this is how I would get it off, I would have to cut it. Typically outside the unit, I would just start turning it left, just like you would a bolt. Clockwise there. So hopefully you can see inside of this. They have to put a lot of pipe dope right here to get this to seal. This is not designed to actually go over these male threads. That's a coupler. That's like a 1-inch NPT coupler for a joint. You can see it's the same fitting that they're using into their housing for their blower unit. I think it was quick and effective, and it does allow them to use a bigger diameter hose, but I've seen a lot of issues with these type of joints leaking here. So often you'll see manufacturers or brands, what they'll do is they'll put a valve on top of the tank to eliminate this hose, which is a real cheap hose, from failing, and this joint. So they tell you to close that valve on top of the tank, and that'll make you feel warm and fuzzy. They call it a safety valve, but the problem is in the spring, if that lift goes down, that valve is about maybe as deep as 30 inches underwater, and it's not right where it's easy to get. So to open up the system to get air to go into the boat lift tank itself, someone's getting wet, and that could be a bit dangerous when it's super cold outside. So we typically, if somebody requests a safety valve, which is totally fine, we don't mind redundancies, we put them where you can get to them from the dock without getting your hand or getting real deep into the water. If they're on top of a tank and it fails, or you have an issue, to just simply raise the system back up, somebody has to get wet. And it is not a good thought when the water is, just above that freezing point. It's actually quite miserable. I've been on several service calls for that. So real quick, if you are installing one of these, to get this joint over this fitting, you're probably going to need to heat it up, because you can't twist it if it's connected to the lift itself. So you're going to have to heat up that joint and really work it back and forth. Now remember, for this to seal, you're going to have to put a lot of pipe dope to get it to work. And I've got some fittings that are designed, they're barbed fittings, they're designed for 1-inch hose, and they'll make a good joint where this doesn't. But you're really going to have to work to get this on. I would recommend heating it up to make it a little bit more malleable. Otherwise, you're probably going to fight yourself quite some time, get agitated, get frustrated. All right, I know we touched base on some of the different types of joints, and I mentioned the one control unit that had just the 1-inch NPT threads to seal on. It's this hose here. I actually screwed it on and off of the control unit. And what they do to make it a sealable joint is they put a lot of pipe dope and other types of sealant. Sometimes you'll see silicone on these threads. That way air doesn't follow the thread itself and leak. This would not be something that would handle a lot of pressure, and they're actually only able to get by with it because it's such a low pressure system, and they've put a safety valve on top of the tank. So a lot of people don't even realize that they have a leak if their safety valve is closed. So what we do, of course, when this is threaded into a ball valve, it's actually sealed correctly, and then this is the hose barb. So here's a sample of our Gates Plant Master 300 PSI. Hopefully you can see that it's extremely thick. Here's a couple comparisons. This has got a PVC blend. We don't mind this type of hose, but when it's cold out, it is unreal how it doesn't give at all, and it almost wants to break. So this is the 200 PSI. So just a different wall thickness. The reason we like this 300 is our pinch ear clamp really goes on there snug. So when we make a joint on our boat lift, I mean, I can't even put it on there. It's work to get that on there. So we have to preheat these lubricants to help us get it on there. And then this will actually clamp. So these barbs won't allow air to escape. This is designed to be a sealed unit just for rubber hose, where you can see this is not designed to be a pressurized joint or fitting. So our worm gear clamps, they will bend really easy, so we use an impact, and we try not to use them on anything other than the control unit. And even with the control unit, we don't like to use them more than once or twice tops, because they can develop this is real thin material, so if this has any sort of crease or bend in it, it'll feel tight when actually it's not. So maybe I can show on here. So we're going to over tighten this for demonstration. So that just stripped out. So someone who's careless with the install, or using actually the worst thing to use would be a flathead screwdriver, which a lot of people do use, or a nut driver, because it's just constant torque. Take it off and show you what happened to that actually gets tore up, and you can see the spacing, so that won't tighten again. So typically I wouldn't use these but once, and proceed with caution when tightening them. And I really don't know how they get any of this to seal. This is such a, I mean, that's about all I've got. This is the 300 PSI, and I can almost touch it together. So, okay, here's another common control unit that you'll find in the field, or that we find in the field, we run into often. First thing I noticed is there's no ground fault interrupter in this cord. So where they put it on this one is actually inside the unit. There's some real drawbacks to that. If there was any sort of cut, or if this cord is zip tied onto a dock upright, it could actually be putting current through if there's a cut in the insulation of that wire. So this is an outdated design. Hopefully they're not doing this anymore. If you do notice that there's not a ground fault circuit interrupter at the plug itself or within a few feet, be real cautious, and I'll show you why. Here, turn this around. So these wires are live right now. Any of that joint could get wet. You can actually see some wires sticking out there. If that's making contact with anything metal, that could potentially send a shock. So the ground fault interrupter is right here on the unit. That's the test, that's the reset, and of course the short distance from there to the motor itself is protected, but anything from this ground fault circuit interrupter, the GFCI, all the way to the plug, which is almost 8 feet of cord, is not protected. Hopefully the dock is, but we don't get to assume that there is a ground fault plug on the dock itself. So a few things about this one. They've run this PVC down to supply the boat lift. This is another weak joint. There's no barbs there, so this is going to cause a potential leak. What this is a drain hose. So as water backflows, which it's going to, when you lower lift, there's going to be a lot of moisture and water that comes back through. It catches in this housing and it's supposed to seep out of that. Unfortunately, oftentimes it doesn't. You can see the rust on the blower motor, and when I turn it on, you're actually going to hear a loud whine. It almost growls coming to a stop. So that's telling me that the bearings or the brushes are really getting old and worn and prematurely. It doesn't need to make that sound. It's typically moisture that causes that. So with the Firstmate system that we use on all our lifts, none of the water can backflow even into the manifold. The bypass valve, as I'll show you, is right down here, so it never comes back through when we lower. So it's really, really great design. So here we are, we're looking at the back side of the unit. There's that red handle I was talking about that I thought would be the live handle. But whoever installed this lift installed it with this being the supply hose. And the reason that I can tell that is real simple. If there's no clamp on a hose, it's not critical. So it's an exhaust. It's not a pressurized system. So you could just slip your exhaust hose, which goes underneath the dock, onto the hose bar. It's going to stay on there. It doesn't want to come off real easy. So you don't need to put a clamp on there because it's not seeing pressure. It's just supposed to release it. So they had this actually hooked up backwards. So it's real easy to get confused on these. So someone was operating this lift backwards the whole time they owned it. And I'll show you real quick. If you see the handles, the weld on this is real small. So the rod only goes the first 1.5 inches, and they almost a little oversized tack weld. And so I can twist this handle pretty easy and cause that to have an issue. So one of the ways to kind of counter that or get out in front of it is to get that rod further down so it reduces the leverage on the piece of flat. So this one, the red handle, which should be the supply handle, is actually welded correctly. It's all the way down here. There's less than, probably about 3/4 inch of leverage there. So you can't really get any twist down here. So the rod itself stays strong. It's not going to twist. This one over here, I can, there you go. I can twist that handle. And the reason that that's so critical is right here it says close. But if I'm opening this multiple times and this handle gets a little off, when I go, turn this around, so I go to leave my boat, I put it right here. This again. So over time, you close it, you keep going firmly. Now let's say your brother-in-law uses your lift. He's going to line this handle up with what is closed, where it says closed on that. The problem is down here, the valve wasn't all the way closed. So now it's all the way past to here. And we see this often. We've had people call on different brands or different situations and say, hey, this lift keeps going down and we can't find a leak. And we determine that it's typically a user error because they're a little confused and rightfully so, because this isn't lined up with the closed position on the control unit. So anytime you're operating, you need to go until you feel that close and seed right there. Don't stop at the sticker because it's right now that valve is partially opened. It's not close to there. And like I said, it's because that flat is weak down there. This handle here, I can't do that because they welded it correctly, but whoever installed this lift put these on backwards. So real easy mistake, but that's a good reason why our systems, we don't have multiple handles. It makes it simpler for everybody involved. All right, let's take a look under the hood of the LOTO Lift single manual system. These are 3/8 screws in the driver. So what you'll see here is a very clean system. They've done a great job. This is all aluminum. So even if it gets moisture in here, it's not going to rust out. I've only seen it on a few, but I have seen some steel ones rust out. No big deal. Turn around to where you see the meat and potatoes here. This is what's important. This is a 3-way valve, full flow valve. They told me they had to spend a lot of money to get this custom full flow valve built. This isn't something you can just find at the store. So really, really great system here. This is actually the supply here, and this is going to be your exhaust. So you can tell that because they've got their sealant on this joint, and there's nothing here. You can actually unscrew this off and see there's nothing on that joint. So this is a brand new unit. I haven't installed it or tinkered with it. This is the contact switch. So it automatically turns on when you get to the raised position. So if it's in the down position, air is going to be coming through this elbow here. This is a 1-inch 90. It's going to be going into the valve, and instead of going back through, it's coming straight out of the exhaust, which we put an exhaust hose on, and we try to put that exhaust hose, we bend it below the surface of your dock if the webbing is there to allow us to do that, and that keeps us from spraying or backflowing any moisture onto your boat system or onto your boat itself. So when it raises, the motor sends positive pressure into the manifold. It's going to hit this valve. Of course, this port is now closed, so all the airflow is going to hit this 90 degree, which is your supply hose, and it's going to put positive pressure into the lift. Typically, it's less than 3 psi. It's a lot of volume. I think the manuals are around 700 CFM. I'm going to go ahead and kick this on. So. Now, if it's lower right now, all this air is going to backflow through this way. There's nothing coming up through the motor. That's why these motors stay good for a very long time, because it's not getting the moisture. One of the great features about the aluminum, let me unplug this, is the fact that it's super light. So when we're packing these all day and we're stacking them, this is not only is this a non-corrosive product, but it's also easier to handle. So when we go out to install them, we're not wearing down carrying these all day. So not that steel's bad in this application, it's just aluminum is going to be better. This is holding the pressure, your brass valve. So really a simple design, very effective, very clean, couldn't be happier. We've been running this unit for over 3-4 years now, and the failure rate is way exceeding our expectations. I think we've had one contact switch give us trouble out of well over 1,000 units, and that's a great rate. Of course, you want it down to 0, but you know, we couldn't be happier with the quality of this company, and they take everything personally like we do when it comes to quality. So very happy to partner with them. If you guys have any questions, run into any issues, feel free to call us. These videos aren't to deter you from calling us and answering specific questions, but we know that when failure happens, it's going to happen at the most inconvenient time, which means we're probably closed. So feel free to watch these videos and try to troubleshoot yourself. Be safe, unplug the unit from the power source before you ever dive in. In fact, probably shouldn't dive in unless you have some electrical experience. But just some quick tips. Hopefully that helps you out. Thanks for watching, guys.